Kelly Beard of KarmicTools.com, and tonight is our monthly Power Circle community event where we pick a subject to focus on, and this month is the supermoons for 2025. So tonight we're going to dive into the lunar rhythms and some of these moons. We're going to look at how to navigate them specifically and the individual things going on with each one and some divinations. And what I've learned by doing this in the past is to kind of keep them all together. So when we all go to the replay, it's a little easier to navigate, let's say. So let's start off with the moon and how important it is to work with the moon to guide your daily rhythms and your life rhythms and your bodily rhythms and all kinds of things. It has its own particular cycle, which we are working with this year in a special way with what I call the lunar flip. So there's like 18 months where we go along, and right now we're in a zone where the new moon is preceding the full moon. And when we get to the fall of this year with two back-to-back Virgo new moons, the order will flip, and we will get the full moon first before the new moon. So what that means is right now, as the new moon leaves, we have to plant our seeds and walk by faith. And often we get to the full moon, and it lights up things that show us what we missed while we were trying to initiate with our new moon. And that particular rhythm, I always alert people to the rhythm so that you can know your preference. This particular rhythm is not my preference. I like the one that's coming after fall. When we have the full moon first, we get to cleanse, clean, and clear, and then walk to the new moon and plant seeds clean and fresh. And it just makes it easier for me personally to detach. But if I have to plant seeds and then I find out something that I missed because the full moon is lighting it up, it can be a little trickier. But everyone has their preference. This is something that flip-flops constantly every 18 months, along with the signs that things fall in, as well as the eclipses. All of these things are lunar related. One of the other things I want to say up front is to tap into the elements and modalities. Because our supermoons this year are in Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, they have covered every modality. You know, Aries is cardinal, which is action-oriented. There's lots of choices and decisions to make whenever we have an Aries, Libra, or Cancer, Capricorn moon. And then Taurus is fixed. So Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius moons, we're usually anchoring permanently or releasing permanently. And with Gemini, it's the mutable energies and what I call the processors. So any Gemini, Sag, or Virgo, Pisces moon is allowing us to process on some level. And so this year we're going to get super moons in these signs, which means the alignment between sun, moon, and earth is in more alignment. And it makes the pull on the tides and the pull on our bodies a lot stronger and more intense. So that's the reason we want to get this heads up and see what's going on with each moon and each lunation so you can know for yourself which one's going to be most important for you to navigate consciously, which one might affect you more directly. Again, no one is exempt because we're covering them from all angles here. But I also teach that if astrology is new to you or if it seems like a completely other language, then look at the elements. And so here we're going to cover the fire, earth, and air. So we don't tap into water at this moment, but we have enough Pisces energy and other water energies, even Mars and Cancer, other water energies to balance that out along the way. And it's quite interesting when I laid it out for each moon. We're going to cover 5 of them tonight. First, I want to just lay on the table the dates that you can remember. We are working with the March 29th, Aries, super new moon solar eclipse. That's the big one. That's the most important one, and it's going to be the first one we go through. But that's big because any lunation that you're working with consciously that is an eclipse, has an eclipse attached to it, then we're talking 10 and 20-year cycles or 9 and 18-year cycles. The bigger cycles are activated when the eclipses come on the scene. And this year we do have Aries, Libra, and Virgo, Pisces eclipses. I think this is the last batch of Aries, Libra. We're on the tail end of that. So we've all had these, what I call shake-ups, wake-ups, and breakups in our individual identity and purpose side on the Aries side, and probably in our relationships, collaborations, and partnership side as well. So we're all navigating those changes that have been going on basically for the last year and a half, going into a new zone of Virgo Pisces eclipses for the next year and a half, which is a little more body and spirit calibration that we need to go through. And then it depends on the house it falls in your chart as to where it happens specifically for you or where those changes might be happening specifically for you. So with that eclipse, we're going to think a little bigger. The rest are just regular moons with the super included, which just, again, makes that alignment tighter, the pull stronger. Your emotions might be a little closer to the edge, typical moon stuff, right? So this is why we like to be alerted to what's going on so we can consciously co-create and direct the energies rather than be a victim of it or be, bowled over or surprised by something. And we're getting together here. This is March 6th, so we're early enough for you to prepare, let's say. But the eclipse vibration, frequency, we're already in it. We're in it, and there's stuff up for the spring that's going to force changes, and we want to do that as gracefully as possible. So let's start with the Aries. One of the things that's unique about this one is all the other things going on. For example, Mercury's retrograde in Aries as of March 29th, and Sun and Moon in the new moon, they're together, and Chiron's there. So we have this healing, education, and soul work piece that's going on with our new moon. And any new moon, of course, we're trying to start something new. So this coincides with even the Venus cycle resetting on the Pisces-Aries cusp. She retrograded in Aries, and it's asking us all to rethink our identity and purpose on some level. Like, you may know what you're doing, and you may have your purpose all on lock, and that's great. But what's happening is you're going to a new level with it. And then those of us who are evolving that purpose in a different way and trying to go off on new paths, this is the best time to initiate new like that. But now we're looking at the chart for that particular moon, and all the Aries is showing up on the first house, which also kind of doubles down on that identity and purpose vibe. By the same token, it puts all that Pisces in the 12th house. So some of the clearing that we might have to do before our new beginning can actually begin is to clear some resistance and self-sabotage and all the poor boundaries, like where you're being overwhelmed either by social collective or by things going on in your own life. We don't want to do any of that. And right now there's a huge reset on the Pisces-Aries cusp. So this first one is just chiming in on yet another level. Many of you have heard all the other calls I'm doing these days, and it's on micro and macro. So we have Mercury changing our thinking on the Aries-Pisces border, basically, and then Venus retrograding there, and Saturn and Neptune are moving in for the big cycle to rebirth in Aries. By the end of this year, we're going to be in new territory completely. Now the moon shines in and makes it very personal. I mean, Venus is personal too, but Saturn is social and Neptune is collective. So there's all these small and large cycles being, let's say, activated as these little things move through. So what I was looking at for this one too is there's no Libra and no Capricorn. So we might have to consciously think about balance and reciprocity, and we might have to consciously think about structures and order and foundation that comes with Capricorn, because there's nothing there to really ground us. But we have Mars finishing up its retrograde through Cancer Leo, another water-fire combo. And as of that time, Mars is in Cancer. So now we've got the ruler of all our Aries in Cancer in the 4th house of home and sacred space. So that tells us, again, we're resetting on a very personal internal level, I think, in order to go back out into the world to serve better. But there's some upgrades that have to happen internally. So any Aries moon, we want to look at our independence and courage of conviction and being willing to start anew or fresh starts or all that new beginnings energy that Aries can spark for us. We want to tap in and be very clear about what is done, and we're going to start fresh and clean over here with the 0 point of possibilities, looking at your own independence and sovereignty within the context of your relationships or community. How does that work? When you get into things, do you consciously think about an exit strategy on how to get out of them if they don't suit you or don't serve you? Aries is also the self-preservation zone, so we get permission to be selfish in this zone where we really tap in and think about what our personal needs are. We can also face our fears and be very courageous in the wake of change, which, of course, eclipses bring that major change, so something's changing. There's a lot of risk-taking and initiating that goes on in the Aries department. Of course, new beginnings, rebirth, and clean slate. We're also going to, let's say, meditate on what you truly desire. What do you really want on the deepest level right now? And what is non-essential? Let's let go of anything non-essential. We want to do a little review about how you direct your energy and how you balance your energies with other people. So in your Aries house now, in the area of life where Aries shows up for you personally, which will be in your post-call goodies, if for those who don't know, you get to focus on you and your choices and your behaviors. What motivates you to actions and choices? What's your motivation? What's your why? We want to recalibrate that as well and set that anew for the next 10 and 20 years. Also channeling any anger or passion into productive tasks, rededicating the energy consciously so that we don't get in that trap of anger and combativeness and conflict and just creating that Aries want to fight energy when that might not be necessary. Of course, when it is necessary for you to defend yourself, you can call on Aries for that too. But you want to take a risk and initiate something new with that new moon, and that's by the end of this month. So think about what that might be for you personally. Redefining your authentic self and identity. Like we said, we're getting a little upgrade. We get it annually, but now with the eclipse, it makes it bigger 10 and 20 years. Rebirth and relearn how to walk and talk all over again at this new evolved level is really important. And to kind of introduce yourself to your people in a new way. Like, yes, that used to be my identity and purpose, but now that's shifted and my focus is over here now. And it doesn't have to, be snotty or mean or anything. It's just this is what's changed. And let's talk about the changes and be excited about the new beginning and the new possibilities. Activating that clean slate in that area of life, wherever Aries falls. And cultivating that new identity or creating a new image is really good and important. Some of the questions to contemplate on an Aries moon is, what do you deeply desire or want in your heart of hearts? And think about what you've manifested, let's say, over the last 10 and 20 years. Because the cycle we're back, or let's say the cusp we're on here, last happened between Aries and Pisces, basically 04 to 08 is the full 20-year cycle. And here we are in 2025, like right in the middle of that zone of 20 years. So there may be things that you wanted 10 and 20 years ago that you're still pursuing that you really don't want anymore. So let's really dig in and look at that. Look at what kind of causes you support or what kind of ways you protect what you love and what you care about. Think about what unknown aspects of life frighten you or upset your nerves. There's always something. We all got something, right? And then think about how and when you are more or less assertive on your own behalf. Because ultimately right now, we're going to have to be super vigilant about every little thing that has to do with you personally. And that's not just because of the moon. That's because of all the planets and everything going on in the world and all this upside down madness. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I can already feel Mercury retrograde warming up. I have a bunch of email glitches and banking glitches and technical glitches, and it's just crazy. So everybody be patient with me, because obviously the universe wants me to reset something. And there's another thing, this little sidebar. But with Mercury retrograde, they retrograde 3 to 4 times a year. But what I tell folks is most of the time, only one of those is going to get you. And since this year is fire and water, Aries Pisces is all up in my chart. So that's why I know this is the one that's going to get me. But I should be off the hook for Leo because I don't have any fixed energy. And by the end of the year, Sag may circle back, but I'll be ready for him by then because I have a Sag rising. So think about how we have to be proactive, like all these little mistakes and glitches and things. Like the computer don't care and the companies don't care and the banks don't care. So you have to be really assertive in that way and protect what is yours. And that's going to be really big for the next year or two, just in general. And then think about the new things you want to try. What's the fresh new beginning in that area of life? So for me, it's my creative house, my 5th house of creativity. So I love that I'm working on a bunch of new creative babies that I hope to share with you throughout the year. And where could you be a little more experimental with your energy? And so with that Aries moon, we also have some divinations to look at. I'm trying to look at the chart real quick to see if there's any other real important things to say besides it being all about you. But the thing is, as we reset this identity and purpose and these internal settings that we have as individuals, it is going to ripple out or vibrate out, reverberate out to the people that you deal with, whether it's relationships or intimate partnerships, who you go to school with, who you work with, and who you do community with. So be mindful of these changes happening within you, and then be alert to what happens in terms of people's responses to the new you, right? There's going to be some of that. Now, the divinations came out pretty juicy, and this is, like I said earlier, what I've learned about doing multiple moons is to keep all the information together with the moon. On other calls, I'll save the divinations all for the end, but they're usually about one topic, not five. So we're going to keep it here. So the guidance we got for the Aries super new moon solar eclipse, I'm using the Vision Quest Tarot, and I got Daughter of Fire, which is self-actualization. And the key words are inspiration, love, faith, hope, innocence, earnestness and sincerity, courage, and unwilling to bind yourself. Ooh, I felt that one in my bones. The inner message says you feel deeply connected to the spirit in all of creation and should praise heaven for your inner realization. Remember that the oneness of existence includes yourself and remains forever intact, notwithstanding what we believe in or think about others. When we realize this oneness and maintain this awareness in our daily lives, we return to our innermost center. Deep breath. The outward manifestation says you are able to vibrate in accordance with your rising power, which is what's going to be coming on for the next 2.5 years. Just tune in to your own rhythms now. Trust the force that animates you. I love that line. It wants to lift you to high heaven like the smoke rising from a bowl of healing herbs. The greater your faith in the secret forces that guide and preserve your existence, the more sure-footed will be your journey. Your path lies clearly before you. I say. And, of course, I like to pull a shadow card so we can pay attention to what might come up, is the Three of Air, doubt. So the keywords are anxiety, uncertainty, fear of loss. Sometimes we don't even want to let go of our old self, even though it might not serve us anymore. Worry, confusion, regret, and a sense of abandonment. Sometimes when we go into that headspace of having to do everything ourselves, we can also feel that shadow of nobody's there for us. So let's not fall into that trap. Feeling abandoned. It's not about being abandoned right now. It's about getting your self-preservation and building some muscle to handle your business so nobody else has to get in the way of that. The inner message on doubt says just because your thoughts incessantly repeat an old nattering worry program in your head, you need not give up all hope. Give yourself the time to internally take a step away from these whirling thoughts. Then you will see for yourself how solidly real any thoughts can actually be. Once you recognize the nature of this thought program, you have removed yourself from it. By observing it, you've now separated yourself and can affect change. The path to inner clarity is mental relaxation, also known as meditation. So getting back to yourself, whatever that is, whatever works for you, tap into that. The outward manifestation says as long as you doubt yourself, it is wiser to remain quiet instead of jumping on some new distraction, however tempting it may look. Since the fearful mind just swings from one extreme to the other without ever reaching a decision, you better wait for an answer from your heart. Train yourself in the art of being patient, not exactly an Aries trait. As soon as a certain inner equilibrium has been reached and clarity returns, the new direction reveals itself to you. I love it. So that's the other thing. When we go within, we can clear some of that doubt. We can clarify our purpose so that we know what we're doing and we don't have any doubt. And we can we can see a new direction where maybe when we're down in that doubt, we can't even see the new direction, right? So let's pay attention to that and let's think a little bigger than annual. On one hand, this is our annual Aries rebirth, right? Every year in the spring, we get to rebirth something. So think about what you're birthing for just the year of 25. But also think about what happened in 2005 and 2015 that might be related to 2025 as well, especially around identity and purpose or your relationships and the role you play within them, okay? So I'm going to take a little quick pause because people have probably joined us by now. You can star 6 to ask a question.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
This is Rahema.
Hey, baby, how are you?
Good, thanks. I wanted to just ask you about Mercury will be in a conjunction with Neptune on the 29th of March as well. I was just wondering what that kind of impact might be.
Well, they're out of sign conjunction. They're 1 degree apart, but Neptune's at 29 Pisces and Mercury's at 0 Aries. So they're really tightly together. You're right. They're definitely conjunct. But I think that Neptune creates the fog. And with Mercury retrograde, we're going to have to be very careful about that. And also Pisces to Aries, I would think about the sensitivity, because that happens too. I've seen on the Pisces-Aries cusp where we get our feelings hurt and then want to fight. And so with Neptune in the mix, things might be a little fuzzy and unclear as to who's attacking who or what's happening in the moment, because your feelings are all churned up. So let's be mindful about our boundaries. Anytime Neptune's touching anything, we got to pay attention to our boundaries. So I would say mental boundaries. Stay off the scroll. Don't do the doom scroll. Stay out of the technology for a minute. Get under the sky. Do the best you can. But yeah, boundaries and perceptions. When Neptune's touching things, and with Mercury, it's already your perception and thinking and ideas and whatnot.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Great question. Thank you for sharing. Okay, anyone else? I love it when y'all are on it like that too. So now the Taurus super new moon of April 27th. These are all falling at the end of the month for the new moons. And when I looked at that chart, we have all the sun and moon are together in Taurus, but Uranus is a little further away at later degrees in Taurus. So we still have that radical change agent in the mix, wrapping it up, approaching Gemini. That's going to be a whole different ball game, y'all. So just pay attention to what's been happening for the last kind of 6 or 7 years that Uranus has been there in Taurus, shaking things up and waking things up as well. This energy, the new moon itself, falls in the 8th house of our ancestors and inheritance and power, sex, death, money, resources. This is where we share resources. And on the across the way, it's basically got Taurus in the Scorpio house and Scorpio in the Taurus house. So it's all mixed up with the resources that you create versus the resources that you have to share with other people. And where's that new beginning of being stable in and of yourself so that sharing with others is smooth and easy? By the same token, Chiron's not too far away in Aries, right next to the new moon. So there's something about healing your individuality that has to happen to honor the new level of self-value and self-worth that's coming through. So there's something going on there, too, where we're upgrading our self-esteem on a deep level. And this new moon will help us address that. And across the way, Vesta, what is sacred to you, the individual, and Juno, how we do partnership and intimacy in particular, are in Scorpio. And so we're already getting this rebirth on the side of what's sacred to you, the individual, and how you honor your soul level self, and how you channel your creativity and power is very individual and personal, and probably getting an upgrade too, because these ladies aren't there except for every 5 years. So for Scorpio energy, this is a big infusion of feminine power and wisdom and energy. So Juno and Scorpio, again, we can't be fake or phony in our partnerships right now. It's all soul-to-soul connections, or get out my face. I'm not doing the superficial. It just doesn't work when these things are moving through the depths of Scorpio. And they're on the 2nd, 3rd house on the other side of the chart, which is your values and your thinking and your perspective. And so there's something shifting or being reborn there as well. And then we have Leo Aquarius activated. So all 4 fixed signs are activated in the Taurus super new moon of April 27th, which takes me to the place that I always tell you all is rooted in the fixed signs is our self-love and self-worth. It's different aspects of it. So Taurus, well, the other upgrade that you can think about for the new moon is your creature comforts and personal security, and where you're physically comfortable, right? What kind of beauty do you need around you? What kind of aesthetic do you love? What makes you feel safe and secure, but also supported, protected, and beautiful and bountiful and fruitful, right? So let's think about the resets that are going on there, and at the same time, think about it being in the 8th house and calling in the ancestors to assist in any way that you need to break some of these long-term patterns around sex, death, and money, or resources and sharing and things like that. We might have inherited some things along the way that do not serve us. And as we're rebirthing after that Aries, we're going to be very clear about who we are and what we want. So going into Taurus is like, what do you want to build with that? And how do you want to get creative with it and make it beautiful? And it's where you, like I said, are physically comfortable. Scorpios, where how you channel your power and creativity and that self-worth that comes from feeling like you are in control of your life. There's a lot of discipline and control that goes into the Scorpio energy as well that we can tap into. So we want to be super disciplined about our own personal goals, and then clear and centered in our soul with how we do our exchanges, especially the intimate ones. Okay? And then Leo Aquarius is totally different kind of self-love and self-esteem. Leo is shining your light, being your authentic self, feeling comfortable in your own skin, and not being afraid to lead and play and be joyful. That's the beautiful Leo side. And by April 27th, Mars will be back in Leo with its final trek. It takes us through to the end of May, and I think it hits Virgo in June sometime, June 6th or something, don't quote me. But right around the early June, it'll finally hit Virgo and be out of its retrograde zone, which with Mars, I tell people, is an 8-month investment for a 16-month return to make the 24-month cycle that is Mars. And we're coming out of the 8 months of it being lingering in the Cancer-Leo department. So by this time, we're on the other side of all that. We've already done the internal shifts around self-care and self-love with Mars, and it's showing up in the 11th house. So hopefully this Taurus new moon will initiate some new power and creativity in one sense, but also allow you to get creative in the community with other people as well, or maybe working with children, things like that come up with Leo. But Mars is who you are and what you want. So where do you feel comfortable shining your light? Where do you want to play with others? How many of us are making time to actually play? We're also focused on survival and work and things going on in the world and all that, and then families. You know, even if you're okay, there's going to be family members falling apart, I've found, for me, at least in my world. And so just being mindful of what you're calling in by the end of April and how that plays out in the community side. Now, on the Aquarius side, it's your unique contribution and the self-love and self-esteem that comes with feeling like you have a unique offering. So where can you upgrade that this year as well? And what's juicy about this is Pluto's the one holding it down in Aquarius for years to come. It's going to be 20 years. Pallas is there once in 5 years, and so that's a big deal. Pallas is your healing capacity, your unique genius. It's your prismatic perspective. It's being able to see things from different angles. And in Aquarius, that is, again, back to your unique contribution, but it's also the community that you want to belong to and that you maybe want to, with Pallas, want to heal with. Like sometimes we have healing partners or, accountability partners and things like that, but not doing the healing work alone. Let's put it that way. That's definitely part of this. And this whole chart is ruled by Virgo, so we're definitely doing some kind of healing by that time. And Jupiter's at the top of the chart in Gemini, expanding the possibilities and the options if we can ground our Taurus at that month, right? If we can ground this new power and creativity, if we can allow the new identity and purpose to unfold organically, if we can stand up in our leadership and shine our light comfortably without feeling any weird self-esteem things that we don't want to feel. This is really juicy. Let me see if there's anything else in the chart I'm missing. At that point, Saturn, North Node, and Sirius are all in Pisces, and Venus are in Pisces. So Venus will be in her process, and that's all 7th house. So I think if we can redefine our terms on a certain level, we can start calling in a new vision of our relationships and partnerships and collaborations where we can be more creative if we are allowing, because it's Pisces, if we're allowing our spirit team to contribute. If we're listening to the ancestors and our spirit team about who to be in relationship with and how to navigate the relationships we've already committed to and things like that. But also being mindful of your sensitivity and boundaries, because if you're still going through growing pains around the new identity and purpose or anchoring the new values and priorities, then maybe you're not doing so much interaction with others and you need to just be clear about those boundaries for now. But either way, there's kind of a new dream emerging around who you want to play with and work with and be in relationship with. So let's work that into our intentions along the way. So now for the Taurus new moon, things to consider in the house that it falls in. So now we're looking at Taurus values, self-worth, and rewards for hard work, what you cultivate and nurture. We're going to be calling in all kinds of new levels of this. Your relationship with money, earnings, wealth, and possessions. How does it work with you in material things, right? Like I've kind of come to the conclusion that there's certain things I really love and can't live without. But then there's a lot of things I'm like, nope, not worth it. Where do you need to reconnect with the energy of Mother Earth? Where do you need to ground your energy and intent? Okay, maybe give the flow a structure. And what's going on in your personal garden, the life that you're creating by the seeds you plant and nurture. What are your deepest desires and what do you want to flourish and thrive? Your infinite potential and power to create, which I've kind of touched on already. And then looking at your Taurus house, where are you initiating new values and priorities there? How are you deepening your dedication to beauty and sustenance? Can you assess your resources, tangible and intangible, right? Sometimes we're supported energetically, sometimes we're supported literally. Focus on building something new. Again, what are you going to create that's brand new in the spring? Define your new comfort zone or new level of comfort in your own body. I like that. Renew your energetic or magnetic field. This is a big deal with Taurus because Venus rules it, and she helps us magnetize naturally and repel naturally. And sometimes we got to recalibrate our field because we're attracting the wrong things or repelling the wrong things. And we don't want to do that, so we want to do that consciously. We're also going to tap into our six senses with Taurus. Like I said, we get literal, physical, and in the body of what is practical and beautiful because Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it's all about the beauty. So how can you ignite a renewed sensual connection with your own body and your six senses? And how can you initiate a new connection between your gratitude and your personal wealth, whatever level it's at? Like, it may not be where you want it to be, but we have to be grateful for what we have in order for Spirit to give us more. And then questions to contemplate. What do you value? What are your priorities? How have they shifted in the last 1 year, 5, 10, 15 years? Let's look a little bigger because there are bigger cycles activated right now. And what is most important to you personally? How can you upgrade your comfort zone to reflect your higher consciousness? What do you want to magnetize into your physical reality? So again, what do you want to manifest? If we plant the seeds at Taurus new moon, then generally with the moon, we give it 6 months to the Taurus full moon to manifest fully. And then we can see what we're really working with. What do you cultivate and nurture on a consistent basis? Negative thoughts or positive thoughts? Results or lack and limitation? Where do you go with that? How is your self-worth, self-esteem, and self-value? Could that use a little upgrade or infusion of light and love? Where are you most focused and where are you least focused? Because that's what happens with Taurus. They can lock in and be super, super focused, but then there's other times where not so much. Usually it's because it's not a value or a priority, right? And then how are your roots and foundation, your structure? Are you stable or fragile? We want to recalibrate that. And when and where can you cultivate more beauty to make the everyday mundane things more beautiful and essential and just feeling that essence in things? We like that. Now, for divinations for the Taurus moon, this would be the Taurus super new moon of April 27th. I pulled 8 of Earth, which is inner order. The keywords are slow but steady development, self-discipline, honesty, diligence, frugality, and groundedness. The inner message says, trust your inner development now, then watch how everything turns out for the best. You don't have to control every detail to achieve what you want. Things unfold with the greatest ease and beauty when you don't interfere with the flow of their natural development. Deep breath. Outward manifestation says diligent work on a long-lasting project. With patience and frugality, you now achieve lasting success. A positive attitude coupled with a sense of order and self-discipline result in further growth on all levels of your existence. You are learning to economize where a situation demands it, while simultaneously learning to thoroughly enjoy the fruits of your labor, I say. So yes, Taurus does like to enjoy the fruits of their labor, Virgo just wants it done right, Capricorn wants it to serve, and Taurus wants to enjoy it. This is the pleasure principle. So let's work that into our new moon intentions at that time as well. Where is the pleasure and joy and experience of beauty, like live experience of goodness? So let's play with that. And the shadow to look out for is stagnation, the 8 of water. And I didn't say it on the front end, but I usually tell you to look these up in your own deck. So if you look up your own 8 of water, it might have something different and something more poignant for you to think about. Keywords are standstill, energy block, separation, worries, listlessness and sadness or depression, which is all shadow Taurus too. Like, it can really go there. Inner message says nothing works. At least that's how it seems right now. Because the free flow of your energy is blocked by tension, a prolonged inner stiffening, sadness arises along with heaviness and feelings of oppression. Let go of your old burdensome ideas of who you have to be or how you have to feel and live your life. Deep breath. Outward manifestation says struggling against the current of our inner life force seems to strengthen the ego for a while. But in reality, we merely violate ourselves. Deep breath. If you refuse to pay attention to the pressure that your unacknowledged feelings exert within you, okay, remember Scorpios, opposite Taurus, Sometimes we suppress things and push them down because they're too deep and they're too hard to acknowledge, right? Deep breath. The pressures in your outer life will intensify if you don't deal with that pressure, right? So if you refuse to pay attention to the pressure that your unacknowledged feelings exert within you, then the pressures in your outer life will intensify. Sit quietly and let the energy knot soften within you. Move your body and allow your true feelings to come up to be dispersed. Then your vital forces begin to flow again very quickly. Ashe, let's claim it. And we'll take a quick little pause. Any Taurus questions? Okay, we'll go on to Gemini. So now we go on to the third and final super new moon, because then the last two are super full moons. This one is the Gemini super new moon of May 26th, and this has the moon and sun together in Gemini with Mercury there. So it will have moved on and already gotten through Taurus too by then, and will be in Gemini very close to the new moon. So I think because of all the retrogrades, I've told you all, with Venus and Mars retrograde, and Mercury too, we're not going to be able to really launch all that new stuff until May, June, and that being the end of May into June. And this is when Mercury and Gemini and all this is showing up with Uranus there still in Taurus, but still, that's a big deal to have it right next to all this in the fifth house of creativity and your creative babies and your creative ideas. So things might be a lot more clear on that back end, and where you can set new intentions around your ideas and things. At that point, there's also going to be an Aries party going on, because Saturn and Neptune will have moved into Aries. Even though they're going to retrograde and dip back into Pisces eventually, this is going to be the introduction in May to this new, it's a brand new energy. Saturn's a 30-year cycle, Neptune's a 165-year cycle, and then right next to it is Sirius, who's only there every 5 years, Venus, who retrogrades there every 8 years, and Chiron, who's there every 50 years. So it's still a big Aries stellium. And the North Node in Pisces is right there. So we have these two little signatures that even though they're out of sign, they're in the house next to them. So with the new moon intentions around new ideas and things, with Uranus there, you got to be different. It's got to be radically different, but also substantive, because it's still in Taurus. So it's got to feed you. It's got to support and protect you. But you got to do something different from ever before. And with all that Aries and the North Node in Pisces right next to it, is going within to feel what right timing and right action is for you, so that you can initiate this new reality and purpose, the new way of nourishing and nurturing yourself, the new values and priorities that Venus is activating, and the new healing and education that's integrated every year by year with Chiron and Aries. It's only going to be there for a couple more years, but this has been a big reset for everyone. And all that falls in the third house of thinking and ideas and creativity. So if you're initiating new ideas, they still have to be not self-serving in the negative way, but self-preservation way, where you're considering your needs and your desires and your goals and aspirations and how that's going to unfold for you personally. Like, if you make this choice, what happens? If you make that choice, what happens? And kind of walking it through to see where it's going to lead. Meantime, Mars, by that May 26th, it's still in Leo, working its way toward Virgo, finishing up its big process, but hopefully that's allowing us to get back in touch with our true selves and in a loving, joyful, inner child, alive with zest kind of energy that I'd like to activate. Anyway, I'm dreaming, y'all. I hope that's what happens, and that we are renewed, and reborn in a way, because we've all been through so much in the last 2, 5, 10 years, whatever you want to look at. All these cycles are converging at the same time. Meantime, Jupiter in Gemini is in the 6th house on this one, which means we need to expand our thinking about what our day-to-day rhythms might look like in this new realm, with this new identity and purpose and new expression of things. So we'll be thinking about that and kind of thinking outside the box, expanding our vision where that's concerned. And that would be the direct energy. It's wild because all of these charts have really tight stelliums, and just shows it's going to be very intense no matter what, in addition to a supermoon that's already intense. So thinking about the Gemini new moon and setting your intentions around your voice or what you want to be a voice for, thinking about communication on multiple levels, like how do you express yourself and how do you work with what we call the invocative power of language. What are you declaring out there? Sometimes we forget and we're not using our words properly, and we're actually invoking for things we do not want just by talking about them. How do you gather and sort your information and data? Because right now it's overload, mental overload. So let's think about how we do that, how we manage our input, output, how we balance that. How do you manage and express your inner duality? The trickster is definitely Gemini as well. Sometimes when I think about this one, it's like, what's your non-dominant side that you know is in there, but you never let her lead? So play with that, how you think and internally process, because remember, Gemini, Sag, Virgo, Pisces are processing. Here we're doing our mental processing around our thoughts, ideas, and concepts. Perceptions and beliefs come up here too, how your mind and intellect work and how you learn, because that can be very unique to each individual. That can all come up around a Gemini moon. Then looking at your Gemini house, think about where you could learn something new, where you could be a little more curious or activate that eternal student-teacher vibe that comes up with Gemini Sag a lot. Practice more self-expression through writing, speaking, or publishing. So look at your Gemini house for that. Be open to new ideas and expanded concepts. Do some research, exchange thoughts, ideas, and concepts with others. That's always fun. Create a network. Networking is big for Gemini. Renew your logic and practice clear communication. Oh my God, we're going to need that so much. Liberate and refresh your mind, your thinking, and your language. That's all the area we could really reset and set new intentions around. And be more open and lighthearted. That's what Gemini is good for, too. Questions to contemplate. How can you initiate one new concept or thought pattern? What is your primary mode or medium of creative expression? Most of you know I'm a wordsmith. I'm a linguist. I like language and words. But so many people are visual learners that I started playing around with videos for the goddesses with teaching through visuals. So what's your natural medium, and then how could you try something new like that? That was new and different for me. And are you fully expressing who you are here and now? That's another thing to be mindful of as this new identity pops off. We're going to have to be very clear not to slip back into old habits or patterns. Where could your ideas, thoughts, and concepts use an infusion of new energy? Like we said, we're setting things anew. And who or what is your twin flame? Sometimes we go into that with Gemini as well. Do you need to lighten up and socialize more or less? Less would be because you're getting overwhelmed by being out there too much. But some of us, our hermits, probably need to get out a little more. This one's a tough one, y'all. How are you duplicitous, either within or out in the world? We got to catch ourselves where we say one thing but do another, or say we want one thing and we go get another. How that all works. It's a lot. It's a lot in Gemini. So now, our guidance for the Gemini super new moon of May 26th. I got Father of Air, mental strength. Keywords are intelligence, clear thinking, astuteness, focused intention, decisiveness, quick-witted intellect. Being in your head is probably their version of shadow. Inner message says, trust your own perceptiveness. You know better than anyone what is right for you and what is not. Stop avoiding a matter that can be cleared up easily with a few insightful words. You have the mental and spiritual strength to make positive changes right now. Focus your mental powers on a merger with your heart. This is the head and heart alignment. Then your heart will give your intellect two evenly balanced wings. Deep breath. Outward manifestation says, now use your intelligence to consciously pursue some genuinely fulfilling goals. Again, let's not waste our time on the non-essential or things we don't really care about or not really priorities. You have the verbal skills and mental sharpness to get what you want, but it is no longer enough to outwit others for your own gain. You are ready to employ your considerable mental prowess in a more conscious and respectful manner. Ashe. Your passionate desire to do what is good and right for all will be gratefully acknowledged by those who admire you. Deep breath. So there was something up in here that I wanted to say. I think it was the heart that gives your intellect the balanced wings. I'm thinking also about the opposite of Gemini being Sag. And what story do you want to tell? What do you believe to be true or possible? And how does that inform your Gemini choices and decisions? Let's think about that a little bit. The shadow side of the Gemini that we need to be mindful of is interference, 8 of air. So the key words are interrupted energy flow, inhibitions, being in the head too much, misgivings and worries, stagnant forces, unforeseen obstacles and challenges. So we do have to kind of be alert for those as well. The inner message says your brain can't decide for or against anything right now when there's interference, right? Actually, there's no need to solve all your problems at once. Thoughts have their limitations as they only get you so far. Now relax and let everything that threatens to overwhelm you drop off for a moment and see what arises. Ashe. outward manifestation says a situation demands to be cleared up, but there may be obfuscation or a delay caused by unexpected outside interference. Detach. It is wiser to step back. Simply wait to see what happens. At the moment, you are not the only player on the stage. Others may have totally opposing agendas and views. So watch what develops from a certain distance. A delay often reveals a more creative solution. Don't push for a decision right now. From confusion only arises more confusion. So generally, if the air is kicking up in any of the air signs, Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, I say get into your earth energy and ground, or give that creative flow a structure of some kind. But that interference may be big, especially if you're trying to step out on a new path or do something in a new way or express a new aspect of self. You may be called on it and have to clarify this new level of yours. Are there any questions on the Gemini one?
Hi, it's Rahema again.
Come on. I love it.
Quick question. So you mentioned that Gemini, it's mutable air and it's the processing. And so I was wondering, would it be the next moon that's in an earth element where we would anchor or release, or would it be the 6 months from this Gemini moon?
I would say the 6 months to have whatever ideas you initiate come into their fullness, right?
Okay.
Where they're clear and they're grounded by then. I mean, it could happen sooner, but yeah, I think you're just planting seeds with the new moon to see where you're at, or to call in that new network or the new ideas and possibilities that Gemini can activate, and then expect them to be grounded within that 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Good question. Thank you, babe. All right, on to the super full moon. So the super full moons are going to be Taurus and Gemini, November 5th and December 4th. So now they're going to be falling at the beginning of the month. That's because that lunar flip is going to happen in between, so it shakes things up, moves things around. And when we have the November 5th Taurus super full moon, that puts the full moon in the 6th house and the sun in Scorpio across in the 12th house. So we are actually in that Taurus one going to have to recalibrate our routines to support the new vision. The things that you've manifested by then are going to make you have to rearrange things to accommodate them, most likely. By the same token, there's an upgrade to your day-to-day rhythms that hopefully reflect the new values and priorities that are emerging by then. This will be by the end of the year. And then we have extra juju, like now the charts are spreading out a little bit, not as tight little stelliums and 2 or 3 signs. Now they're spread out, a little bit of everything everywhere. But by November, Saturn and Neptune have dipped back to Pisces along with the North Node, so we'll be wrapping things up there. And that all falls in the 4th house. So we're going to be doing some things in a very private way, I think, at that point. And maybe because it's November and the year is winding down, we'll be pulling inward for winter, that kind of thing, post-fall energy. But here we're also redreaming something in the bigger way because Saturn and Neptune are really wrapping it up. And so we're redreaming in terms of the 4th house, what is safe and secure and stable. Maybe not everything, but there's going to be certain things, hopefully, that we can hold on to, even though the world is changing, even though there's so much rebirth going on out there. In this chart is ruled by Sag, and by that time, Mars, Mercury, Juno, how we do commitment and intimate partnership, and Vesta, our sacred individual selves, all in Sag. So we definitely rebirthing a bigger vision for all of it as it relates to your identity and purpose. So that's a big deal. That's fiery, and ruling that earthy full moon will have this fire, creativity around telling a new story of who you are and what you want, and also evolving your partnerships to tell a better story, right? How can we improve the story we're telling with our life choices? Who you are and what you want is going to want to expand and go to a new level at that point as well. And you'll be ready. This is the visionary and the expansive thoughts and ideas and concepts. This is the going to spirit to get guidance on what is actually the best avenue for you at that point. And a Taurus full moon, when we're clearing things, we have altogether different things to do and concentrate on. So with a Taurus full moon, we're still going deep on the self-worth and self-value, but now we're clearing anything that's blocking that from its full fruition. And we're still looking at all the same things we always look at with Taurus, cultivating and nurturing the things that have the most value for you. But in terms of our Taurus house at that point, we'll be releasing blockages and stagnation, any apathy and negative thinking. You'll be renewing your definition of self-esteem and self-worth, assessing the values and priorities so that you can make a new commitment at that point, and then balance and integration of the visible, invisible, or tangible, intangibles of life, because we recalibrate that at that time as well. And we renew and beautify ourself and surroundings, because again, we're kind of pulling inward and doing some work that way. Hopefully you can lighten your physical or material load, do some space clearing and cleansing, because it'll be Scorpio time, so we'll be starting from 0 point again. But with the full moon shining a light on any excesses or famines, it goes both ways, too much or not enough, because that's a shadow of Taurus, is the hungry ghost. It's like you're determined and you're capable and you can manifest anything you want. So you go and manifest it, and once you do, it's like, ooh, that didn't really satisfy. That didn't really do what I thought it was going to do. I don't understand. So we got to be really clear at that point around excess and famine, or let's say extremes. We don't want to, in the fixed signs, we always got to watch those extremes. And that would be Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. And renew your dedication to life as a process, as a building. Step by step, we're going to do this, and it's going to allow us to do that. When Taurus is there, we get very practical and organized about certain things. If it's anything we really want, if it's a real priority, then we do. And then you start questioning things. On this full moon, we're going to ask some different questions. Is it still worth it? You got to evaluate the worth of every interaction that you do. It's just one of them things. And by the end of the year, you're going to want to do that, because you're going to be in such new territory with your new identity and purpose that you're going to have to let go of some folks and make room for some new folks. And then also, where is your vision too narrow? Sometimes in Taurus, we can get caught in survival mode and have a very narrow vision in what we think we can do. And we don't want to do that. Or when and where are you too stubborn instead of determined? That's the shadow of Taurus. Taurus, and when it's doing good, it's determined to finish and get things done and make them beautiful. But let's say the shadow of that would be being stubborn and holding on over long unnecessarily. Also, which seeds, because we'll be at the end of the year, took root and which ones did not by then. That's how you know what to invest in further, and Taurus Scorpio always brings up our investments. Where are you imbalanced around food, sex, or spending? We're going to look at that shadow as well. And these are the questions to ask around the Taurus house, where it falls for you. How are you currently spending your resources of time, energy, and money? Are your investments yielding positive results or rewards? And what repels you or others in your physical reality? Like, what are you magnetizing and repelling naturally? Again, we're going to revisit that. That's going to be important. Now, the divinations for that one. This is for our Taurus super full moon in November. We got Father of Earth, reliability. The keywords are diligent work, harvest time, strength, thoughtfulness, benevolence, insistence, stability, discipline, and rigidity would be a shadow. Inner message says it is important to strengthen your contact with the earth now, meaning a certain amount of grounding is needed. This will give you greater stability and inner firmness. Just the thought of being able to rely on your inner self can renew your strength. Focus on your earthy qualities at this time. And Spirit's just telling me to also remind you about the ancestors. That's going to be ancestor season, and the grounding that you need could come from your spirit team at that point. The outward manifestation says, feel in what area you need more grounding. In order to complete an unfinished project, you need a sense of safety as well as internal stability. But work just for the sake of work is not energizing enough, merely a burdensome necessity. Soulful work, which is work that you don't even consider as such, provides the satisfaction you seek. That kind of energy investment strengthens your self-confidence, thank you God, and gives you the faith that you are on the right track. Ashe. So again, going into the soul, doing your spirit work, actually checking in internally before you make moves externally is absolutely the theme for the year. If it's not Pisces, Aries, then it's this. Taurus, Scorpio. There's all kinds of ways that we line up in our chart where it's inner and outer. And so the shadow side would be 5 of Earth, insecurity. Keywords are fear of loss, worry, self-pity, negative thoughts, self-condemnation, fear of inadequacy, and self-abuse. The inner message says, once again, you have pulled into an old negative mind loop. To get out of it requires your full attention. Remember why you tend to think about yourself so harshly. Look closely. Where does this destructive influence come from, and who needs it? Find out. Become aware of the influence negative thoughts have and how you allow yourself to be hypnotized by them. Sometimes when our basic essential needs are not being provided for, right, we can go down a dark tunnel. So let's not allow that during that time. Outward manifestation says, in this state, it is better to stay on the sidelines. Do not try to accomplish big things, let alone make important changes in your environment. An insistent fear of failure could jeopardize what develops now. First, let the dark cloud of worry pass out of your mind and renew your consciousness. So that's what we always say. Raise the vibe first. Cleanse, smudge, clean your house, clean your space, and then go to your spirit team to bring in whatever you need. We have to raise the vibe first. You don't want to be calling things in under that dark cloud. By becoming still and regularly relaxing your mind, you will soon find that everything looks a lot brighter and much more clear. So that was the Taurus full moon in November. Last one is our December 4th Gemini super full moon. This one has the full moon in the 12th house and the sun in the 6th house. So we just reversed them, y'all. This is so crazy. This is interesting, though, because in the reversal, I'm seeing something else. So let's say with our Taurus Scorpio, we were getting literal with setting ourselves up for success, releasing excess and non-essential, and allowing our soul to lead, right? In this one, now our soul side is in Gemini, and our day-to-day stuff is in Sag. So we're going to have to expand the vision around daily rhythms and routines. Basically, what I'm guessing is going to be happening at this point is preparing for 26 and the completely new story you're going to tell and the new rhythm you're going to have. And I can testify to that extent where 04 to 06 was the same Pisces North Node cycle that Karmic Tools was born under. And it's also the year that I did Hay House Radio, and I had a huge flood of new members. Like my mailing list went from like 500 to 1,500 in one day. And back then I was on dial-up, y'all, so it didn't really work very well at all. And now the cross-pollination that I'm doing with Yay, the same cycle's back, and I'm deepening my dedication with my spirit work and all the same thing. I was deep into ritual back then, too. Like, Karmic Tools was born out of mad spirit work and ritual and ancestors and everything, because it's exactly when I committed to the ancestor work as well. And now I'm going to a whole new level with the ancestor work, and everything that works only seems to work if I have spirit or ritual work and ceremony attached to it, right? Like if I just think it and think it's going to happen, it ain't happening. I got to do a ritual to make sure it happens and to show my spirit team that I'm dedicated and I'm committed and whatnot. But I can feel that same expansion coming, y'all. And so whatever you were doing back then, let's say in the early 2000s, like we said, 04 to 08, that whole little zone is very Pisces Aries. And now we've completed that 20-year cycle and we're starting a brand new one. So you want to define those terms and tell the story you want to tell based on your expanded consciousness, based on the new interactions you're having with other people, which, again, as you position yourself, you're going to be able to magnetize more by the end of the year and into the new year. So that's going to be a lot of the Gemini Sag work there, where we're shifting our consciousness around our commitments and day-to-day rhythms. And at the top of the chart is the Pisces Aries energy. And Saturn and Neptune are still doing their last few degrees of Pisces. Sirius, how you nurture and like to be nurtured in Aries, means speaking to that independence and freedom zone, even though you want to be in partnership or have other people involved. And we have that Chiron healing. So there's a certain aspect, I think, of healing your reputation and career, or like what you're known for. Let's think about that and how that's going to shift, because the identity has shifted earlier in the year. And by the end of the year, Jupiter will have moved into Cancer. And in this chart, Cancer is ruling the chart. So how you feel about your new identity and purpose is going to be a big deal, but also grounding those new rhythms is going to be happening as well, and Jupiter is going to be there to expand it. So does the new purpose and reality, or the new identity and purpose, really serve your needs? We're going to be asking that question, right? We're not going to be doing stuff haphazardly. We're going to do things consciously. And we're going to pay attention to, do they feed and support and protect like Cancer is supposed to do? And we're going to expand our consciousness around that whole nurturing principle during the whole year that Jupiter spends in Cancer. And then for those of you that have Jupiter in Cancer, Capricorn, or Aries, Libra, that's going to be personal in your 12-year cycle for that. So that's going to be a big deal as well. Also, let's see if anything else jumps out as relevant here. That's pretty much it for this chart. So with that Gemini full moon, super full moon, now we're doing more clearing. So you want to consciously assess and renew your language. How can you process and release non-essential information? Clarify. If you express through writing, speaking, or publishing, it's time to edit and renew at that point. So that's why I told people earlier in this year not to really lay down and commit to the whole big thing just yet, because until May, June, you're not going to be grounded in that new yet, right? So you could change your mind because Mercury's going retrograde, and you could change relationships because Venus is retrograde, and you could change who you are and what you want because Mars has been retrograde. So until those three shake out, which isn't until May, June, you can't really do all these things. So we're looking at whatever story you're ready to tell. This last full moon is going to give you a chance to edit it and really tighten it up. Right? Tighten it up so that it's telling the story you want to tell for 2026. It's going to have you seeding and conceiving that at that point. You're also going to want to release outmoded beliefs and perceptions because so much is going to be different by the end of the year. You want to go within to clear your mind and release any inner conflict or inner duality that isn't good. Renew your connection between head and heart and liberate and refresh your mind. Ashe. The questions to contemplate will be, how can you complete an idea or concept that you initiated with the Gemini new moon? See how we're going to circle back to these as well. How and where does your creative expression need renewal or revitalization? Are the facts still true? So this is a funny question because this is what I tell people. Truth is fluid. What was true yesterday may not be true today. And what's true today may not have been true yesterday, and it doesn't make anyone good, bad, right, or wrong. Things are just no longer true. So let's look at the end of the year. Let's look at the story we told for 25 and ask ourselves, is that really still true? And is it the story that you want to carry into 26? Where is your own inner duality no longer sustainable, like serving two masters or being stretched too thin between home and work and different things that we need to recalibrate along the way? How are you processing life, and like what story are you telling, right? How are your mental processes running? Are they running smoothly or are they in overdrive? You're going to have to assess that with a Gemini full moon. And how can you talk less and say more? Ashe. That's always a good practice. So the last one, our divinations for the Gemini super full moon, was Mother of Air, self-awareness. This is what's going to really help us. The keywords are intelligence, inspiration, self-respect, confidence, inner strength, clarity, creativity, and courage. The inner message says this image depicts your strength to be who you truly are, not who you were supposed to be, should have been, or what others would like to make you become. Remember that. Your self-confidence has been awakened, Ashe. With it awakens the courage to drop your masks once and for all. This is the only way to your own inner center. Outward manifestation says you have the intrinsic courage to express yourself with unmistakable clarity and to take your rightful place in life. This doesn't mean pushing anyone out of your way. You are learning to be more kind to yourself as well as others, no longer trying to please and appease everyone else. Thus, you disengage from the preconceived ideas and the prejudices that you may have bought into. This is what we mean by, is it still true? Got to ask that question at the end of the year. Is it really still true that you're in survival mode? Is it really still true that you think this way? Is it really still true that you have the same beliefs? You know, things evolve and we change along the way. And these eclipses are going to make sure we change. Now you are recognizing your absolute worthiness. Just begin to behave accordingly, Ashe. By respecting yourself, you are showing others how to treat you. If you honor and take care of yourself, other people will respond in kind. Deep breath. The shadow is negative thinking, 10 of air. The keywords are doubts and existential fears, unwillingness to let go of negative mind loops, clinging to self-destructive notions. Deep breath. Inner message says sometimes you create your own hell just by repeating hateful thought patterns. There is no hell outside of you. Hell and heaven are internal states of mind. We create them. This power and responsibility cannot be placed at other people's doorstep, even if that feels more comfortable. Become aware of how you think about and treat yourself. Ashe. Our manifestation says no new seeds should be thrown onto this field of doubt. Straighten yourself out first. Try not to hold on to past offenses. I would add yours or anyone else's. Clinging to a mental position robs you of your strength. Deep breath. Become aware of how your mind loops drag you ever deeper into the muck, especially in work-related matters. Fresh air, exercise, and regular relaxation will help you jump off this downward spiraling carousel of anger, worry, and pain. Ashe, deep breath. So that's our guidance, and those are our 5 supermoons. I hope you will circle back to the replay as needed. I'll remind you along the way. But for the first 3 months of the year, we got them. We got super new moons. So any new beginnings are going to feel particularly intense. And by the end of the year, any endings are going to feel particularly intense. And so we can consciously prepare and hopefully direct the energies in a conscious way so that we're not bowled over or overwhelmed and things like that. We don't want to do that. So I thank you all for hanging tough. I appreciate those who are here live, and those doing the replay, reach out directly with any questions or afterthoughts. I love to hear about your aha moments. Before I let you go, does anyone have any questions about the Gemini moon, full moon?
Not a question, but just an appreciation. This is heavy duty, but also very clarifying in this new moon, full moon, Pisces, Aries. I mean, it's a lot of clarifying and putting me on the path I should have been on and need to get back on.
I hear you. We all got that one cooking, too.
So thank you.
I'm so happy you joined us. Thank you,
I'm
darling.
glad.
I'm so glad you could make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. All right, y'all. Be well. Thank you, everyone.